Yeah, thanks a lot, Joe. The question we're really looking at from this presentation is, has Australian and Tasmanian flora and fauna evolved in isolation from other regions? As most people would know, we have a very unique flora and fauna, lots of creatures and plants that are very unique to our particular regions, and Tasmania has a high level of unique creatures even for Australia. We're dominated by marsupials, and there's a red-necked wallaby from the east coast of Tasmania with the little joey in the pouch there. So they're pouched animals that carry the young in the pouch, different to the placental mammals and the egg layers as well, which we've got here with the platypus and the echidna. But we've got this wide variety of marsupials. And one of the best known is the Tasmanian devil. I'll just better get to my slides, I guess. There we go. There's some cute little babies in a breeding program. They're being bred now because they're in fact declining in their numbers, which is something we'll get onto shortly. They're widely displayed in wildlife parks across Tasmania. They're about the size of a very large cat, probably a bit heavier than a large domestic cat, and they're the largest marsupial carnivore still in existence in the world. They live in dens, breed in dens, and they're found in all sorts of forest types across Tasmania. They mostly eat carrion, so they're not great hunters. They do eat meat, but not from really hunting. They even have trouble hunting small animals, but they love to eat something that's already dead, and they'll even attack a dying human in the bush if they get half a chance and think that they've got it over you. But I've got a bit of a video that will show them eating. It's quite hilarious to watch, I think. They'll fight each other, and if one of them gets a bit of the meat and starts to run off with it, there will be this whole trail of devils chasing them. But Joe, if we can get that up now, we can just, it goes for about a minute, something I recorded at a wildlife park a little while ago. But if we can get that up now, we can show everyone the devils feeding.
But they do still try and get their peace. We're all trying to push each other out of the way. Some of them are using their paws to push the other's heads out of the way, so where they can sort of get a better view. They have these beautiful long whiskers, which they use to actually sense the other devils. So as you can see, they're very concentrated on their meal in front of them. So use those whiskers like feelers to actually feel where the devils are, and they can move out of the way if they feel a door open so their legs don't get caught. Has any of you guys got a good hold? So as you can see, we have one little devil here that won't let go. Devils usually don't let go unless they have to, or unless, of course, another devil climbs on top of them and drags them right down.
Do their jaws lock like some dogs?
Their jaws nearly lock just like a saltwater crocodile. They're not letting go of that meal unless they have to, or unless it's to get more. So as you can hear, they're using a lot of chucking sounds just to sort of tell each.
Okay, thanks, Joe. There's another little video there I've got of another a unique Tasmanian, is the tiger quoll or the spotted tail quoll. There's 4 quolls that obviously marsupials again, the pouched animals. And in Tasmania, the tiger quoll has the best population of anywhere left in Australia, indeed the world. So if we can just, this is a very brief one, but you'll just get an idea of the animal if we can get that one up and playing now. Thanks, Joe.
Oh, that's pretty good. Sweet, Shana. A really good possum or something. Huh? Or a bit of possum or something. Probably. Or a bit of wallaby probably. You got a bit of meat then.
Yeah, thanks, Joe. So just to get back up onto the slides. So the Tasmanian devil and the tiger quoll really are remnants of a fauna that were more widespread across Australia. And the quolls are still found in Australia. The eastern quoll isn't. The eastern quoll was known from mainland Australia up until about the 1980s. And now it's not thought to be still on the mainland, but it is reasonably common in Tasmania. There's a picture of a devil with some scratch marks on its back there from fighting for food, most likely one in the wild, I'm guessing. John took that one. But here's what's happening to the devil now. There's this terrible disease. You can see there, it's horrible. Sorry to do that to you in Australia if you haven't had your breakfast yet, but there's Tasmanian devils with the facial tumour disease. And this has actually only really come in the last 20 years or so since I've been in Tasmania. It wasn't really known before then. It's something that's impacting them seriously, such that they've been listed now in Tasmania as endangered animals. There's still, reasonable populations out there, but there's a lot of concerns about their decline. The quolls and other marsupials in Australia have also deteriorated over the years by various diseases coming in. In fact, the quolls were known to have been impacted about 100 years ago in the early 1900s by a disease that seemed to decimate them. And also again in the 1950s, the devils were known to have a disease in Tasmania of some sort. No one really knows what sort of disease it was, but they went through a rapid decline, recovered, but now they've got this additional disease. There's a present-day Tasmanian devil skull. And here's a fossil one from the mainland, from South Australia. They're also known in Victoria, so definitely were known from the mainland. But here's the comparison between the two. We've got the large mainland one in front and the current-day Tasmanian one behind. So Tasmanian devils, without a doubt, have decreased in size. Is that evolution? Is that refining? Or is it, in fact, evidence that the world has declined, their food sources have declined, and they're degenerating? Oh, sorry, I've got to get off that one if we can. I forgot to delete that, Joe.
Just keep clicking across.
Just go to the next slide.
Yeah, it wasn't allowing me to do that. I'll just see if I can get past it. There we go. Sorry about that. Okay, so here's a megalodon tooth. Another great white is another example of a creature in Tasmania that has declined. You can actually get megalodon teeth in some parts of Tasmania, been known from Flinders Island, for example. And that clearly is, you can identify sharks by their teeth. It's clearly a great white shark. But in the background of our display there is a real great white shark jaw. Same sort of tooth you can see, but that tooth is a fraction of the size of the megalodon tooth. And I know the guy that found that great white shark jaw. That's a real jaw. Back in the day when you could still collect them, you're not allowed to anymore. He found it dead in nets off the coast, and it was a 3.5 metre shark. If you measure out 3.5 metres on the floor, that's a big shark. It was so big that he couldn't get it into his boat, but he did cut it open and pulled its liver out, and its liver alone weighed 100 kilograms, which is sort of 1.5 times my entire weight just for its liver. So the jaw in the background was still a big shark, but compare it to the megalodon tooth that we know was a great white that once lived and maybe is still alive today. Who knows? There's a bit of a picture we've got of the megalodon at the museum, a massive great white shark. And we know that sharks continue to grow the longer they live. So the question that we can ask as a creationist that an evolutionist feels uncomfortable asking, well, if you've got a 15 or 16 metre megalodon shark, how old was it? So was it a better world in the past where they had their better food, where they could live longer and grow bigger? So all of these things are example of change. The devils have got smaller, they've got sicker, as have the quolls, but it's no help to evolution, because this is evolution. It's saying things are getting better and more evolved, superior. So change isn't indeed what we see in nature that's like this from molecules. We never see molecules forming life and life then forming more complex organisms, but rather the Christian perspective, which is the complete opposite really in direction, where we've had a created perfection, we've had a God that's made a good world, a great God that's made a good world. Mankind has sinned and it's been downhill ever since. That's degeneration, that's devolution, and the evidence in Tasmania and indeed Australia is not one of special evolution in a remote climate that's deteriorated as well. It's gone drier and drier. It's well known that it's become drier. It's not evolving in that. It's actually devolving, and we've just got the creatures left that have survived that period to this point. That the Bible is indeed accurate from the very beginning. God made everything good. It's been downhill ever since. There's no evidence that Tasmanian wildlife has evolved from anything. It's a devolving remnant from a fallen world. And once widespread creatures, as we've just seen, are shrinking in their ranges, getting diseases and becoming rarer.